What's your favorite place in the world? How quickly did you fall in love with it? Today, we're going to take you to one of my top spots, Belgium.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with wanderlust. Welcome to Travel FOMO. I'm Jamin Houghton, and I'm here with my wife, Hilarie. You're listening to the third episode in our secret season.
That's right. And this time we're headed to my favorite place in the world, Belgium. And just kind of background on this, right before college, I spent a month backpacking across 9 European countries with my sister, Jessica Giles. And in this secret season, we are tackling each one of those countries, one country per episode. So these episodes are really just a dialogue between myself and my sister. Kind of did like an interview and are kind of going back in time.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear what all you guys discussed about Belgium. I know you both loved it, so yeah. I'm excited to hear about your adventures there. But before we jump into your interview, we actually have an audio clip that you guys recorded while you were there back a long time ago, right?
Yeah, back 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago. I think it was 2005. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's hear the clip.
Okay.
Day 6, Saturday, May 14th. Jessica and I got to do a bunch of cool things. We left Paris, and we went down to Chartres. And it was really interesting because it was our first time to use our World Pass, and we didn't know what the heck we were doing, and it ended up being so much easier. It didn't cost, like, very, very small fees if there were any. And so we got to see Chartres, where we went to a cathedral that I've always just thought was amazing. And it has a labyrinth in there that I really love. And I'll let Jessica tell you about what else happened at Chartres. We went outside. Of course, we were outside. We were walking. And we could hear people singing. We could hear church bells ringing, or I don't know what it was, chimes. It was really pretty music playing. A choir, yeah. And it was so pretty. We came around the corner, and there was a whole ceremony. Everyone, it was pouring down. I mean, not pouring down, but just raining a lot. Let's put it that way. And everyone was wearing these ponchos. Everyone was wet with their umbrellas out, and everyone was standing outside, and they had a couple umbrellas over a priest, and they were preparing for Pentecost. And as they prepared for Pentecost, once they were finished, they were all going to walk to Paris from Chartres, which is about, it was an hour's ride on the train. And so that is an amazing thing. And to be doing it in the rain, we were like, wow, that is so cool. No wonder everyone had ponchos. And it was just, that was really cool. And it was just like, they only do it once a year, and we just happened to get there at the time, at the hour, and the day that they were doing it. So we thought that was really cool. Also, we ended up, after Chartres, we went to Belgium, to Bruges, Belgium, and it was really cool. And basically, like, we didn't really know what we were going to. We just knew that we had to go to a hostel called Charlie Rockets, and we showed up, and it is the most charming town I've ever been to. It's amazing, so cute, and like, it's just beautiful. And oh, we got so many pictures. They're amazing, and it's just so quaint. And we got up to Charlie Rockets, and it's like it's actually like a bar at the bottom, and there's music playing, all these young people everywhere, and then like you go up to the top, and you go up these stairs to your hostel, and winding stairs, like really steep, and there's a really narrow stairway, and it's really cute. And like you go up to the first floor was actually what we would call the second floor, and then the second floor was actually the third floor, and we were on the third floor. And like we had these 2 Canadian girls as our roommates, and a huge room with a sink and everything, and like you could look out over the street. It was so cute. Like, it's exactly what I would want from a hotel room. It was awesome. But even with raptors. Yeah, even with raptors. And anyway, that was great. But I went to take a shower, and it was so cold. Literally, if we could have water that cold in Marine Spot, we wouldn't need ice. It was crazy. So I had to wash my hair in the sink because I could not do it in the shower. But that's about it. We're about to leave Bruges. It is now another day, and we will save that journal for later. Bye.
Very cool. So it sounds like you guys are kind of like coming into your own as you travel a little bit. Like if you're like listening to the clips so far, you hear like you guys are like kind of getting your mode down.
Mm-hmm.
So these little auto recordings, like they're so cool. It's such a nice like snippet of time from back then.
Yeah.
What were you using to record those?
Well, it's very high quality, as you can tell.
Clearly.
Clearly. We were actually using a little MP3 recorder that my sister had. And so it's just a little digital recorder with batteries and some memory space on it. Yeah, so it was tiny. We could take it anywhere we wanted to go and just real quickly put down our thoughts, and that was a lot of fun. We also journaled a lot on our own. Each of us brought our own journals and really, really went into detail. But the audio recording clips were really fun, just to get to bring back that little slice of that present moment. So you can actually hear in this audio clip that we talked a little bit about our time in France, Chartres, France, and oh my goodness, another really charming little place. If you didn't catch the previous episode about France, you can go check it out, and that's kind of a little teaser. We kind of talked about it a little bit in that audio clip, but people can go learn more there. So
just from that little audio clip, it sounds like you guys are really excited to be there. You're pumped about your hostel. It's a charming place. So let's get into the interview and hear all about it.
Let's do it. So far, we've talked through England and then France, and now we're on our way to Belgium. So we are going to tell you a little bit about Belgium, and I have to say, this is one of my favorite places in the world, like specifically Bruges, Belgium. And I think we're just there for like 24 hours or less.
I was going to say, that's all I have down. It was a pretty short trip because we did move on to we already had another spot planned, I think.
Yeah.
So how it worked with our hostels, if I can jump in here to kind of interrupt about hostel stuff, like we had some of our hostels booked at different places that we'd kind of paced out. You know, we're covering 7 or 8 countries, 7 or 8, right? Something like that, in like a month span. And so we knew like, okay, we have to have a certain pace of like how many days we want to be at each location. And so we had booked certain hostels prior to our trip, making sure that we had certain ones locked in. And then there were occasions where, okay, you know, we'll find one along the way as we'll continue to do research on little internet cafes and such things. But so we were able to be a little bit spontaneous as far as where we stayed and such. But sometimes we had to move along to the next spot because we'd already paid for a room. You know, we're like, okay, just trying to stick to our itinerary a little bit, but also that we had put money into it. We had a place waiting for us. So, but yeah, we were at Bruges for just a day, I think.
Yeah. And oh my goodness, it's like perfection. It was so amazing. And there is a movie called Bruges, and I would recommend watching it for the scenery. It's not necessarily a feel-good movie. I think it's like, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's kind of like I think Colin Farrell's in it, and it's a little bit of a Debbie Downer, but it's beautiful.
I haven't seen it, but now I'm like intrigued. Now I have to.
I know. But man, I remember, we showed up, it was kind of starting to be the end of the afternoon, and we got to our hostel and we stayed at Charlie Rockets, and it was so cool. Oh my gosh.
It was cool.
Highly recommended. And we got there, and I wish we had planned to stay longer just because it was such a lively and interesting place. There was like a bar at the bottom, and then it just shot straight up, and there were like all these floors and floors of rooms above us with like these tiny wooden stairs. And oh my gosh, it was so fascinating. I had to literally take a photo while we were there in the stairwell, because it was like, we're not talking about like a winding staircase. We're talking about funky steps that find their way up all these floors.
Not even like straight, not even like in one direction. Like it doesn't curve like a spiraling, but it also doesn't go straight square, like, okay,
Yeah.
we're going to go this way, and then we're going to turn 90-degree angle, and then go another 90-degree angle up. It was just like, okay, so we're going to veer off a little bit to the right, and then back a little bit to the left, and then these stairs go back to the right. It was very weird,
Yeah.
but very cool.
It was
Very
crazy.
fun. And the
Yeah.
room was fun. We had, our room had to have been on top, I'm guessing, because we had like rafters, like going, like our roof had like or our ceiling had rafters in it, and it was just really fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Trendy.
It was fascinating. And it was like, we were at the top, because I remember looking down and being like, whoa, we are way up here. For a tiny little city, you felt, they just had like every building just had 3, 4, 5 stories. And you would kind of look down and, man, it was so beautiful. I just thought it was just so freaking charming. And
Very quaint.
oh, I want to go back so bad. But it was colder than I expected.
Yeah, which we were there in May. I mean, yeah, I don't even know if I knew what to expect with the weather in these places, but it was a little chilly. Yeah, because we'd bought those scarves in Paris, and we wrapped them around. And I mean, like, these are thin scarves. These are decorative scarves, people. These are not like bundle up in the winter scarves. These are scarves that you just wear for fashion. You wear it around your neck, thin. And like, and we had it like wrapped around our heads. Like, oh, it was so funny.
Yeah.
We were freezing.
I do brought it like a more intense coat for times like that. But
I don't know how I survived. I get cold so easily. But I guess the walking helps. We walked pretty much everywhere. So then you're building up, like, your body gets going. But even then, we were walking that day and it was still cold. We were like, okay. It was really quaint. And I mean, especially compared to like these other big places we'd been, it felt very much almost more like a village where like you're likely to run into someone you might know if you live there. It just can't be that big. That it was really neat.
Yeah.
Had little paved brick streets, and like one-horse carriages, and chocolate shops where like they would make these insane chocolate designs of like entire buildings that are just, oh gosh. It was like,
that's
how
awesome.
do they do that?
Yeah.
Man. Very decorative.
It was really good. I remember we got some chocolate and it had like liquor in it, and I just remember being like, that's awesome. That's so cool.
I did not like them. Did you like them?
No, they didn't actually, because I mean, it was actual liquor. So you're like, it doesn't actually taste that great, but it seemed so like fascinating. And of course, I remember us putting some of the leftover chocolates in our backpack, and that was not a great idea because eventually they crack open and you have alcohol spilled all over in your backpack.
All over all your chocolates.
Yeah. But I just remember all these charming little canals and rivers throughout the whole city. It was almost like Venice and kind of like Amsterdam too, where there's just so much water running through, and all these boats. And I think there were even, is it gondolas that like are like those things that they have in Venice? Where
I think that's what they're called. I think that's at least what they're called in Italy. I would imagine they would have the same name.
Yeah, it was really cute to see. It was kind of like a Northern European Venice is kind of what it felt like to me. The shops and boutiques and cafes and bars, and it was interesting how Dutch was the language. I don't think I knew that.
Yes.
So.
I think we both expected, we were trying to see like, okay, did they speak French? Did they speak German? What is this? And then somehow we realized, we probably talked to somebody and oh, okay, this is Dutch. Awesome.
But it was short-lived. We weren't there very long. Spent the night there. I do remember trying to take a shower in that hostel, and it was ice cold, and I could not figure out how to turn on the hot water.
That's funny.
And
we probably never figured out how to turn on the hot water.
No, I don't think so. And I was just tired enough that I was like, I'm not walking down all these stairs into that bar to ask somebody if they can help me turn on my shower.
I wrote down little notes about like unique things from each city. Just that it was different than America. Not that it anyway, but just like the just like the doorknobs and like how doors open and like the toilet seats, like you would flush. I forgot this about London. Like you would flush and like the flusher would be like way up. The tank would be like up in the air, like 6 feet up in the air, and you're pulling this string way up here. It's like, whoa, that's different. And just anyway, I have down for Bruges that like the showers, we had to push the button repetitively for the water to keep flowing.
Yes, that's
like,
right.
Oh, that's funny.
That's crazy. So maybe there never really
things.
was hot water.
Maybe not.
It's a possibility. That's funny.
And then apparently we also had to pay for some public toilets there. That's
yeah.
Fun.
It's beautiful though. The architecture, oh my goodness, is just phenomenal. And then pictures do not do it justice, even though some of the pictures we have are amazing.
I think I like the feel of like the environment, like especially looking back on it. I don't know that I even appreciated as much at the time because I'm from a small town. So for me, the big cities were like, whoa, this is really different to me. Like as an adult now, and I live in a city now, like, oh, I'm like, because just walking along those canals and like the fact of being able to have this combo of like this cute little quaint village like city with nature all around it and intertwined is just very serene. It was very calm and very like I don't know why it's coming to me now because I don't feel like I have really ever thought that before, but it kind of makes me imagine of like a modern day like city of like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Like maybe it's one of these castles that I see, one of these buildings that's like a modern day city, provincial life. There must be more than this provincial life. But I mean, definitely I put it as in my journal, I put it as this is a secret hotspot. Like this is a place that I would definitely come back to and stay longer and even consider living. Yes. Like I think I could even enjoy living there.
In fact, I have a photo and I put words on it and it says there will be a next time. That's how I feel about Bruges. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's so cool. I think my favorite memory was walking, this sounds crazy, but walking from the train station to our hostel. And it took forever and it was freezing cold. We were like giddy. We were just so
loving
happy. It was just such a great memory together.
Of it too. We have pictures of us freezing with these little scarves wrapped around us, but we were like so happy. Yeah. It
was really cool. I can't believe we figured out how to get to the hostels. There were some times I'm like, I do not know how we arrived, but we did.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask, what do you wish you would have done there?
I think just stayed longer. Like really, I think, I don't know if there's any one spot. I don't know a lot about the history of Belgium. Maybe as far as the country as a whole, I think Uncle Arlie was stationed there. And he wasn't stationed in Bruges, but he was stationed somewhere else in Belgium. So I think knowing that, I didn't know that at the time. I think I've just learned that in the last couple of years. And I think they've made a recent trip to Belgium to visit that town, in fact, but where he was stationed. So I'd be kind of interested in like maybe going to a different spot in Belgium while also visiting Bruges for sure. The country as a whole, I think I might try and visit that spot where Uncle Arlie was stationed, but definitely stay longer. I mean, that's like a very easy answer that I would have just done it all again. I would have just stayed longer.
Those are literally the words I wrote down. Stayed longer.
I'm telling you.
We're like the same person.
This is kind of weird. We are. Even
I also put bring a coat.
Yes.
And take a boat ride.
Maybe not carry a backpack this time. Maybe have a suitcase where we can have more.
Exactly.
And backpacks were like 25 pounds, weren't they?
I remember thinking like we've got to be losing weight, but then we also ate a lot of ice cream. So I was like, ice cream and bread and bread.
Yeah. All the carbs on the trip. I guess we needed them.
Okay, so very cool to hear about you and Jessica's time in Bruges. So it's a place that neither of you had been, right?
Yeah.
So, and it from the sound of it, both of you really loved it there, really enjoyed your time there. If anything, wish that you had had more time there.
Right, yeah.
So how do you plan time at a place that you've never been?
Yeah, that is a really good question. And the interesting part is we literally just spent a night there. And I believe the real thing that we thought was the real peak of interest was this really cool hostel we'd heard about. How ironic that we actually loved the place itself and would never have been there if we hadn't heard this really cool hostel. And
So wait a second. So you guys decided to go there because you heard there's this cool hostel there.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we knew anything about Bruges, really.
But it ends up being like, well, you said it's your favorite place in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Which is
cool.
really crazy that you just don't know where your next favorite place is going to be.
Yeah.
And so my advice to people, to answer your question, my advice to people would be to research, because you can learn. We have access to so much information now, right? You can get on YouTube and look up places before you get there. You can do all of that stuff on your phone as you are literally on the train right there. But if you do that further in advance, you can plan your time better. But in all honesty, even if I would have looked all of this up in advance, I don't think I would have known the actual feeling of being there. And that's really what got me is you can see pictures, you can hear other people talk about it, but then once you get there, it's your own experience. So
Right.
It's all unique.
Very cool. So how soon did you recognize that you loved it there?
Great question. It wasn't immediate. There was a really long walk from the train station. I think we talked about that a little bit in my interview with Jessica, but and it was really, really cold. And for me, you know me well enough to know that if I'm too cold, I cannot enjoy anything.
Yeah.
And so I was really, really cold. And we just didn't have room for huge coats, while we were backpacking. But I would say by the time we actually got into the city from the train station, and maybe we didn't get off at the right train spot. That's another thing I want to research for next time. But by the time we hit the city, I knew, I started seeing the different buildings, and we hadn't even gotten to the hostel yet. And I was like, I want to live here. I knew I wanted to live here. So, or I knew it was one of my favorite places, I guess I should say. Yeah.
Very cool. So you said just a minute ago, you said you can see pictures of a place and you can hear about it, but when you get there, you feel it. So what gives a place a feel?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I would say every place has its own culture, every place is unique, but you're also in a different place in life every time you show up somewhere, right?
So you're different.
Yeah, you're different, and your experience is different because of who you are in that moment. And so I think it's a combination of all those things that really makes it stand out for you.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this episode of the Travel FOMO podcast. As always, we want to hear from you. What's your favorite place in the world? What is your Bruges? Where have you been that speaks to you and pulls you in? Post some photos on social media and tag us. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And we'll be sharing our own pictures and videos in those places as well.
Yeah, including some of my sister and I in Bruges.
Tune in to the next adventure of the secret season where Hilarie and Jessica make their way to the Netherlands. We'll find out if Amsterdam lived up to its reputation.
We'll see. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Travel FOMO podcast from wherever you're listening. Details are in the show notes. And you can also learn more about us and our adventures at travelfomopodcast.com. Don't forget, guys, life is short.
Wander well.